She thought I would never find out. She thought I would beg, cry, or fight for her love. But when I discovered the truth, I didn't shout. I didn't argue. I just stopped. Stopped caring. Stopped trying. And that's when she truly started to break. At first, she didn't notice. Then, she started to worry. And by the time she realized what was happening, it was already too late. She lost me. She lost everything. But the real twist? She still doesn't know the worst part of it all. Listen to the full story to find out. The night it all fell apart, I wasn't looking for a reason to doubt her. But fate has a cruel way of ripping away blindfolds. I was just passing the bedroom, heading to the kitchen for a glass of water, when I heard her voice. Soft, intimate, and not meant for me. I don't even want to touch him anymore. Then she laughed. A quiet, detached chuckle. I froze. My grip on the glass tightened. She was on the phone, lying on our bed, legs lazily swinging in the air like she had no care in the world. My wife. No, the woman I thought was my wife, was speaking in the kind of voice that once used to be mine alone. It's just that I don't feel anything when he touches me. I tolerate it, you know? It's not exciting. Then a long silence. A pause that said more than words ever could. Of course I want to. I just have to be careful. He's not stupid. I exhaled slowly, trying to contain the fire now raging inside me. My fingers ached from gripping the glass too hard. But the pain that truly burned? It was in her voice. That casual, indifferent, almost smug tone. She wasn't just betraying me. She had already moved on. I was nothing more than an afterthought. I had two choices: storm in there, rip the phone out of her hands, demand to know who the hell she was talking to, or something else. And in that moment, I realized something terrifying. She thought she knew me, thought she had me figured out. She had no idea what I was capable of. I turned away, walked back down the hall, set my glass on the counter, and let her words poison me. She didn't want my touch. She would never feel it again. She thought I was predictable. She was about to learn just how wrong she was. For the next few days, I became a ghost in my own home. I stopped asking about her day, stopped reaching for her hand, stopped pretending. She didn't notice. Not at first. She was too busy texting, too lost in the fantasy world she thought she had under control. Good. Let her enjoy it while it lasted. At dinner, I sat across from her, eating mechanically, offering no small talk. She barely glanced up from her plate. At night, when she used to curl into my side, I rolled away, leaving a cold, empty space between us. Days passed. Then, finally, she noticed. Hey, are you okay? I turned my head slightly, met her gaze, and smiled. A real smile, but without warmth. Yeah, why wouldn't I be? She blinked. I don't know. You've been quiet. I shrugged. Just been thinking about things. No further explanation. She hesitated, waiting for me to say more. I didn't. Instead, I grabbed my keys and walked out. Let her wonder. Let her feel the gnawing uncertainty I had felt that night in the hallway. Then the little cuts began. Movie nights. I watched alone. Dinner. I came home late. Her texts. Left on read. She wasn't used to being ignored. And when she finally started to feel it, the loneliness, the emptiness, her voice changed. The smugness disappeared. The laughter faded. Good. Because I wasn't just going to make her feel regret. I was going to make her beg for mercy. Days turned into weeks, and I watched as the cracks began to form. At first, she thought nothing of it. She assumed I was in one of those moods, where men withdraw for no reason. But this wasn't a mood. This was war. It started with little things, subtle rejections she wasn't used to. She came home late one evening and found me already watching a movie. You started without me? She asked, her voice laced with mild surprise. I didn't pause, didn't even glance at her, didn't think you'd be interested. Her lips parted like she wanted to say something, but instead, she just stood there. Then, without another word, she sat at the far end of the couch. No shared blanket, no stolen glances, just silence. Awkward, uncomfortable, perfect. The next day, I came home late. She was waiting for me, arms crossed, eyes sharp. Where were you? I set my keys down, my face unreadable. Out. With who? She pushed. Just some people. A flicker of something, worry, doubt, passed through her eyes. People. I held her gaze, my expression cold. Yeah, people. Then I walked past her, leaving her alone in her own thoughts. For the first time in a long time, I saw her falter. She wasn't used to being ignored. Wasn't used to feeling like I was the one slipping away. The real shift came 2 weeks in. By then, I wasn't just quiet, I was absent. I moved around her like she was nothing more than a piece of furniture. I spoke only when necessary. I never initiated conversation. And slowly, she started to break. One night, she made an effort. "Do you want to go out for dinner?" she asked, trying to sound casual. I didn't look up from my book. "Nah." She hesitated. "We could try that new place you mentioned last month." A test. She wanted to see if I still cared, if I'd jump at the chance to spend time with her. I didn't. Not really feeling it. She swallowed hard but nodded, forcing a smile. The next morning, as I was getting dressed, she reached out. Just a small touch on my arm. I flinched. Not a big reaction. Just enough. Enough for her to feel it. Enough for her to realize that my body no longer welcomed hers. She pulled her hand back as if burned. The first real fracture. That evening, she did something unexpected. She set a bottle of wine and 2 glasses on the table, giving me a hesitant smile. "Thought we could have a drink together. We haven't in a while." She was trying to fix something she hadn't even realized she had shattered. I stared at the wine, then at her. Then I stood up. "I'm heading to bed." Her face dropped, just for a second, but I saw it. The flicker of pain, the quiet, desperate panic creeping into her eyes. She sat there alone, 2 untouched glasses of wine in front of her. That's when I knew. She was starting to understand. Starting to feel the same loneliness she had forced upon me. Starting to realize she wasn't special anymore. That her presence didn't excite me. That I could go entire days without thinking about her. And it was killing her. That night, I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, listening to the soft clinking of glasses as she put them away. For the first time in a long time, I slept soundly. Because this was only the beginning. It happened sooner than I expected. She had been unraveling for weeks now, subtle signs at first. The way her shoulders tensed when I barely acknowledged her. The hesitant looks she threw my way, searching for something in my expression that was no longer there. Then, one night, the dam finally broke. I was lying in bed, scrolling through my phone, when her phone lit up on the nightstand. A message. I wasn't looking for it. I didn't need to. The truth always reveals itself in the end. Tonight was incredible. "I can't stop thinking about you." The sender's name? Just a single letter. K. My heartbeat didn't spike. My fingers didn't tremble. I just stared at it. This wasn't a revelation. It was confirmation. She walked out of the bathroom moments later, towel drying her hair, humming to herself. She didn't see the phone light up again. "Are you coming to bed?" she asked. I didn't respond. Just slid my phone onto the nightstand and turned off the lamp. She had no idea that the game had just changed. The next morning, I called in sick. She left for work, tossing me a half-hearted kiss before stepping out the door, thinking everything was normal. I waited exactly 20 minutes before I opened my laptop and got to work. Step 1. Find out who Kay was. It didn't take long. A quick look at our phone bill showed a pattern. The same number. Over and over. Late at night. Then, I cross-checked her social media. It wasn't public, but people are careless. They slip up. They get comfortable. And just like that, I found him. Kevin. A mid-level executive at some company she worked with. Handsome, in a polished, artificial way. The kind of man who thought he was untouchable. I scrolled through his profile, studying his carefully curated life. The expensive vacations. The tailored suits. The smug grin of a man who believed he was winning. I almost laughed. He had no idea that he was about to lose everything. For the next few days, I became both a ghost and a hunter. I tracked their messages. Placed a small GPS tracker under her car. Nothing illegal. Just a simple Bluetooth device that let me see where she went. And for the final piece, I hired a private investigator. Because I wasn't just going to expose them. I was going to obliterate them. It took less than a week for the PI to get me everything I needed. Photos, texts, even video footage of them entering and leaving the same hotel room. I had it all. I could have confronted her right then. Could have thrown the evidence in her face. Could have watched her stammer and beg. But that would have been too easy. She had taken her time destroying our marriage. I was going to take my time destroying her. The night before I made my move, she did something unexpected. She sat beside me on the couch, closer than she had in weeks. "Hey," she said softly, almost shyly. I looked at her, my expression unreadable. "Yeah." She hesitated, biting her lip. "I feel like we've been off lately." The audacity. I tilted my head, pretending to think. "I guess." She exhaled slowly, almost relieved that I wasn't dismissing her outright. I don't want us to drift apart. Drift apart? We were already miles apart, sweetheart. You just hadn't realized it yet. So I did something cruel. I smiled. Soft. Reassuring. The way I used to. And I said, neither do I. Her shoulders relaxed, relief washing over her like she had just won something. She thought she had me back. She had no idea that tomorrow would be the worst day of her life. The night she thought everything was fine, I knew it was time to break her. She brushed her teeth in the bathroom, humming softly to herself, completely unaware that her world was about to collapse. I had waited long enough. As she finished and walked back into the bedroom, I placed the envelope on her pillow. It was thick, filled with everything she had tried to hide, every text, every photo, every lie. When she saw it, she froze. Her eyes darted from the envelope to me, panic rising like smoke in her chest. "What's this?" she asked, voice tight. I didn't answer. I just watched her. Her hands trembled as she picked it up, flipping through the pages. The messages. The pictures. The undeniable proof of her betrayal. Her breath came in shallow, uneven gasps as she processed it. Her face turned pale, like she was staring at a ghost. "Where did you?" Her voice cracked. She didn't finish. She didn't need to. I leaned forward, elbows on my knees, and let the silence stretch between us. She opened her mouth, probably to deny, maybe to beg. But I stopped her with a simple wave of my hand. "You don't have to pretend anymore," I said softly, almost gently. "You don't have to hug me anymore." Her hands went limp at her sides. I wasn't angry. I wasn't shouting. I wasn't even asking why. I just didn't care. And that was what broke her. She looked at me like I had just struck her. The realization hit her like a fist to the chest. There would be no argument. No desperate pleas. No begging for forgiveness. She had lost. And she knew it. The silence between us was the loudest sound she had ever heard. The next few days were a blur of indifference. She tried everything. She tried to cook my favorite meals. She tried to make my coffee. She even asked if I wanted to go out for dinner. But every gesture, every attempt to reach me, was met with nothing. She sat beside me on the couch. I stood up and left the room. She asked if I wanted to watch TV with her. I said no, and turned away. She pulled me close one night, hoping for something, anything, but I flinched. It wasn't dramatic. It didn't need to be. Just a small, subtle movement, enough for her to feel it. The rejection wasn't just physical. It was emotional, and I could see it in her eyes. The desperation, the hunger for any kind of reaction. But there was nothing. The more she tried, the more I pulled away. The cracks in her armor widened. 2 weeks passed, and then she started to break. One night, I heard her sobbing in the kitchen. Not the fake, calculated tears she used to pull out when she wanted sympathy. These were real, raw, gut-wrenching, and I did nothing. I stayed in the living room, scrolling through my phone, pretending I didn't hear. She cried herself into exhaustion. Finally, she came into the living room, eyes red, face streaked with tears. She stood in front of me, fists clenched. "Are you seriously just going to ignore me forever?" she shouted, her voice shaking with rage. I looked up at her slowly, the calm in my gaze like a slap in the face. Yes, that was it. One word. Her whole body stiffened as though I had struck her. "Why won't you yell at me?" she screamed. "Why won't you fight? Do something." I set my phone down, my voice steady, cold. "You don't deserve my anger. You don't deserve my time." Her breath caught in her throat as I leaned back in my chair. "You're nothing to me." The words landed with the weight of an avalanche. Her shoulders trembled. The tears didn't stop. But there was no way to stop the destruction now. She had gambled everything. And now, she had nothing. That night, I packed my things. Not all of them. Just the essentials. Enough for her to understand I wasn't coming back. She came home to find me zipping up my bag. She stopped in the doorway, eyes wide, fear creasing her face. "Where are you going?" she asked, her voice small. I didn't answer. She stepped closer, her hands shaking. Can we talk?" I picked up my bag, slung it over my shoulder. I met her gaze one last time, and I smiled. The same cold, indifferent smile I had given her the night I handed her the envelope. We already did. She didn't try to stop me, didn't beg, because she knew. There was nothing left to say. The moment I walked out of that house, I felt nothing. No regret. No hesitation. Just the quiet satisfaction of a man who had already won. She had wanted space. She had wanted excitement. She had wanted to be free of my touch. Now, She had everything she had asked for, and it was the worst punishment I could have ever given her. I erased myself from her life completely. I blocked her number, ignored her emails, didn't acknowledge mutual friends when they reached out on her behalf. I became a ghost, a man she once knew, a man she once had, a man she could never have again. She had made her choice, and I let her drown in it. The fallout was swift and merciless. Her affair hadn't just been a secret between us. I made sure everyone knew. Her family, her friends, her colleagues. None were spared from the truth. And Kevin, the man who thought he had stolen my wife, he lost everything. I sent the evidence to his wife. She wasted no time in tearing his world apart. She filed for divorce immediately, took the house, took the kids, took everything she possibly could. And as for my ex-wife, she quickly realized that the fantasy she had built was nothing but a lie. Her little affair partner wasn't interested in playing house with a woman who had nothing left to offer. Their passion fizzled out almost instantly. 2 weeks. That's how long they lasted after I left. Then, just as suddenly as he had appeared, he was gone, leaving her truly, completely alone. Months passed. I moved on. I built a new life. A better life. One of peace. Stability. I had my own place. My own routines. A sense of freedom I hadn't felt in years. Then, one evening, a message popped up on my phone. She had found a way to reach me. "Can we talk? Please. I just need to see you." I stared at the words, reading them over and over, almost laughing at how predictable it was. She had played her game and lost. She had thrown away a good man for a fleeting thrill. And now, she wanted to rewrite the past, to undo the damage, to salvage what was left. But some bridges, once burned, are gone forever. I didn't respond. I didn't even type a single letter. Instead, I blocked the number and let her sit in the regret she had earned. Regret is a shadow that never leaves. It lingers in the quiet, in the spaces where love once lived. It suffocates the air until every breath feels heavier than the last. And my ex-wife? She was drowning in it, and I made sure she never surfaced. The messages didn't stop. She tried everything. "Please, just talk to me. I made a mistake. I miss you. I miss us." There was no us anymore. She had set fire to everything we built, and now she wanted to sift through the ashes, hoping to find something still worth saving. But I had already walked away, and I didn't leave a trail for her to follow. I heard from mutual friends that she wasn't doing well. She wasn't the confident, smug woman she had been when she whispered into the phone that night, the night she thought I wouldn't hear her. Now, she was a ghost of herself. She barely spoke at work, stopped going out. She even moved back in with her parents after Kevin discarded her like old trash. She had no one, not her lover, not her friends, not her husband, and it was exactly what she deserved. Then, one evening, she tried again. A different number, a different approach. "I know you hate me, but can we please meet? Just once." I didn't respond. But this time, I didn't block her either. I let her message sit there, unread. I let her feel that last bit of false hope, that maybe, just maybe, I would give her the closure she desperately craved. But there was no closure for her. Only silence. The last time I saw her was by accident. I was out one night, walking through the city, enjoying the life I had built for myself. Then, across the street, I saw her. She looked different, thinner, weaker, eyes hollow from restless nights, shoulders hunched, weighed down by the weight of her own choices. She saw me too, and in that instant, I watched the emotions flash across her face. Shock, pain, and finally, despair. For a brief moment, she took a step forward, maybe to speak, maybe to beg, but then she stopped, because she saw it in my face. The final nail in the coffin. I didn't care. Not anymore. She had gambled everything and lost. And the worst part? She had no one to blame but herself. I turned away, walked past her without a second glance. And just like that, she became nothing more than a stranger. A distant mistake. A lesson she would never forget. I never looked back. And I never will. The end.